Okay, welcome again to our pre-departure week. Pre-departure weeks are a series of online events and sessions to help you, students who will be starting at Utrecht University this fall, feel more prepared before your arrival in Utrecht. Um, Today's session will be about the final steps before you start on fees and enrollment. Um, so the structure of today's presentation event will first be a presentation. During this time, you can ask any questions you have in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we will pick out some of the most useful Q&As to everyone and answer them live. So let's get started with the presentation. Starting first with tuition fees. This is for students from the EU EEA region only. So first you need to accept your conditional offer in Osiris. After this, the Central Student Administration will verify your identity and send you an email in June, July, or August. If you have not heard anything by the end of July, then you can contact our student service and we can see how you can help you. Make sure that you arrange your payment before the start of your program. And if you are paying by digital direct debit authorization, the first deduction will be at the end of September. We will talk a bit more about what the digital direct debit authorization is in the coming slides. So you can submit a digital authorization request via StudyLink. If you are a non-EU student, this is something that you can use in your second year, but not in the first year. To be able to do this, you need a checking account from a bank located in the Netherlands or other SEPA country. The direct debit is valid from September to September, so it's only for one academic year. After that, you would have to submit a request again if you do have a second year. There are two ways that this can happen. This can either happen by direct debit in full for your entire tuition fee for the year, or it can happen by direct debit in installments, where your tuition fee is directly debited from your bank account in installments throughout the year. This costs €24 administration fee as well. Again, the first deduction will be at the end of September. So going through the steps again to do this, you need to go to StudyLink and click on My To-Do List, after which you can select the option of Enter Your Payment Details. You can check the StudyLink step-by-step plan for more information on the digital direct debit authorization payment method. If something does go wrong, wait a couple of days and try to issue the payment again. Some issues tend to solve themselves. In order to be enrolled, you only need to submit the debit authorization because, as I mentioned, the first deduction will take place at the end of September. So then moving on and talking about conditional admission and documents. So these requirements and your deadline to fulfill them are stated in your conditional offer, a PDF file which is attached to the email. One or more of the following conditions might be mentioned. So first, I have to send certified copies of my diploma and transcript. I have to send proof of my English proficiency. I have to complete a course, pass a test, or do further study. Keep in mind which requirements you need to fulfill, and the deadline for this is included in your conditional offer. We'll go through the details of some of these conditionals that might be mentioned for you. So starting off first with certified copies. So you might be wondering, what are certified copies and why do we need them? So we need certified copies to verify the authenticity of the documents. How can you make certified copies? You can go to your school or university with your original diploma and transcript. Your school or university can then make copies of these documents, and they can certify these using a stamp in original ink, or they can also issue certified digital documents. Keep in mind that you do not send us your original diploma and transcript. You only have one of this, so keep it safe with yourself. And photocopies of the original documents without certification are also not accepted. So make sure that you get certified copies which are correctly certified. You can find more details about this on our website. Talking a bit more about the different ways in which you can hand in certified copies. So firstly, if you are handing in a certified hard copy, you can collect and send your certified physical documents by post. If you are sending a certified digital copy, you can share these documents via the secure electronic system. And what you can also do is ask your institution to email documents on your behalf to admissiondocuments@uu.nl. This is quite a handy method if, of course, you live far away from the Netherlands. Again, for more information, you can visit our website. Under general information for international students, you can select after you apply and you can find a lot more information about handing in certified copies. In the case that you will be sending certified hard copies and you do live close by the Netherlands or you are visiting, you can also submit your certified hard physical copies at student services located at the Utrecht Science Park. If you have already submitted your certified hard copies, how do you know then that they are received by Utrecht University? So make sure that if you are sending your physical hard copies to us via post, that you send them via a tracking code. It may take 4 to 6 weeks at least to process your documents. If you are a bachelor student, you will be notified by an unconditional admission email. Or if you are master students, you will receive a confirmation email from the International Student Admissions Office that the documents have been received. But keep in mind, this does take 4 to 6 weeks. Talking then about the English language test, which could be another condition that you need to fulfill. If you have done the IELTS test, you need to send a scan of your official score report. If you did TOEFL IBT, the test taker score and request ETS to send your results to Utrecht University, our code is 9062. If you did do the TOEFL and you don't have the official report, you can send the test taker PDF first and make sure that the official report will be sent to us using the code 9062. The TOEFL IBT Home Edition is also currently accepted, so you can also use that. If you did do the Cambridge C1 and C2, you need to send a scan of your certificate or statement of results, your candidate's ID number, as well as your secret number. Moving on then to the enrollment steps to get your Solis ID. So starting first with bachelor students. So if you are a bachelor student, you need to accept your offer and meet all the conditions on time to get your conditional offer. Keep in mind that if you are registered at a Dutch municipality, you would have to participate in the matching. And for fixes and selective programs, there might be some additional instructions which you need to follow, which are sent to you via the program. After this, you need to pay the tuition fee or submit the direct debit authorization, which we spoke about earlier. Once this is done, you then receive a confirmation email from Central Student Administration. And finally, after this, the Solis ID will be assigned to you 2 months prior to the start of the program. Keep in mind, you do need a full enrollment along with your Solis ID to start your program. So just having a Solis ID is not sufficient to start your program in certain cases. And in the case that you did not get an email regarding your tuition fee by the end of July, you can reach out to us and we can figure out what to do. Then let's talk about the enrollment steps to get your Solis ID for a master student. So similarly, you need to accept your offer and meet all the conditions on time to get your unconditional offer. After this, you need to pay the tuition fee or submit the direct debit authorization. You then receive a confirmation email from Central Student Administration. And after this, the Solis ID will be assigned to you 2 months prior to the start of your program. Again, if you didn't get an email by the end of July regarding your tuition fee, you can contact us. And you do need a full enrollment along with your Solis ID to start your program. So let's talk about this a bit. Does receiving a Solus ID mean that I can start the program in September? So you would probably still receive a Solus ID even if you are not fully enrolled in one of the situations below. So for example, for masters, if you have a letter of unconditional acceptance. So essentially, it's important that you make sure that you still follow the instruction steps to fully enroll at Utrecht University. So receiving a Solus ID does not mean that you can start the program. The Solus ID, along with a full enrollment, does mean that you can start the program. So make sure that you keep an eye out for that. You might also need an official proof of enrollment. If you do need this document, you can download it from Osiris Student. If you open the tab Personal Details and go to Status of Registration for Degree Program, you will then find the option to click on Declaration of Enrollment. A PDF file will open, which you can print or save. Again, you will get access to Osiris Students once you have your Solus ID. And the steps to get your Solus ID we discussed, of course, in the previous slides. Then coming to the final section of the presentation, terminating enrollment. So in the case that you do need to cancel your enrollment, you can cancel your enrollment or application until the start of your study program, so until the 31st of August. If you've confirmed a digital direct debit authorization, no tuition fees will be debited after cancellation. It's also possible after the 1st of September, but you then have to pay for the months of enrollment. Tuition fees only need to be paid for the active months of enrollment. Hopefully this made sense to you and this presentation was useful for any of the final questions that you might have had about fees and enrollment. We will now move to answering some of your questions. Let's see. Okay. We don't have a lot of questions in the chat, so I think we will just answer some questions that we think will be useful for you to know. So we have Dennis from the International Student Admissions team who will be joining us to share some useful Q&As. So Dennis, is there anything you would like to share?
I do see one question coming in, and that might indeed be a good one to answer as well. Someone wants to know, due to bureaucratic issues, my university will issue my documents late. Will I still be able to start my program in September? It depends a little bit on where you're from. If you're a non-EU student and need a visa or residence permit, you were asked to submit hard copies by June 15. If you are an EU student or a non-EU student who only still has to send in the final diploma and transcript, you were given a deadline of September 1st or August 31st, depending on your situation. It would be great if we get the documents before the end of August, but if we get them in early September, you can still be enrolled as of September 1st, provided the documents meet our requirements. So in that sense, the hard copy deadline is a little bit fluid, let's put it like that. So that's might be important for you to know. But we definitely need all the documents you need for unconditional admission before the end of September, and preferably a lot earlier, because as long as these documents are not in, you cannot be unconditionally admitted, and that also means you cannot be enrolled. And as long as you're not enrolled, you cannot access the library, stuff like that. So yeah, you see that it's important to be enrolled in time.
Yes. Is there anything else you think would be maybe a question on students' mind or something important that they should keep in mind?
Yeah, I do think it's also important for you to realize what Ria already said in the presentation. When you send in your hard copies, either by post or if you send them via your university or if you send them as digital documents, we are receiving hundreds and hundreds of documents in the summer. Yeah, it can take several weeks before we process your documents, and especially if you send them either by email or with a tracking code, you can see that we received them, and then we will definitely process them and reply. Just know that it can take a couple of weeks, and emailing us, "Did you get my documents?" will only slow down the procedure. So we understand you are eager to know if the documents are in, but please have a little patience and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. The summer months are just, yeah, a lot of students handing in documents and asking questions, and there might be some delays in the whole process, but we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Perfect. I think that's definitely something, yeah, important for everyone to know.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to realize that if you have any questions or doubts afterwards, you are always welcome to send us an email. So anything not answered or discussed in this presentation, yeah, we are there to help. And of course, we will try to keep the delays in answering because of the busy summer months as low as possible. But yeah, when in doubt, please just let us know and we'll help you.
Yes. I see some more questions coming in. I think they're about the tuition fee payment. So I'm not sure.
Let me see. For some reason, my chat function won't. It stops here. Let me see if it. Or maybe you can read it out loud. Oh wait, there it is. Yeah. I see someone asks, the tuition is being paid by a scholarship scheme. How can this be arranged? That depends on what kind of scholarship it is. If it's an Utrecht University scholarship, it will be arranged, to say so, behind the scenes, and you will receive communication about that. If it is a scholarship that is not being facilitated by by Utrecht University, then it depends whether if you're a non-EU or EU student. If you're a non-EU student, you probably got your invoice already, and you can forward that invoice to the scholarship provider, and the scholarship provider can pay the invoice that was sent to you. If your scholarship provider wants a separate invoice, that is possible too. We can send a separate invoice to that scholarship provider directly, but then we need the contact details of that scholarship provider. And if you're an EU student and the scholarship provider, EU students generally don't get an invoice, but if you want your scholarship provider to pay for you directly to us, please get in contact with us and we'll figure out a tailor-made solution for that. So I hope that sort of answers that question. I also see a question about the administrative costs of 24 euros for the installments. For paying in installments, that is a lump sum that you pay only once, and that 24 euros will be added to the first installment. So there are 4 equal installments, and the first one is 24 euros higher than the other 4. So it's not something you pay for every installment, but just once.
Great. I think that answered both questions. Yeah, really well. If anyone else has any questions, please put them in the chat so we can use the last couple of minutes to answer any questions that you might have had. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would be important to mention. I see one other question that did come in the chat, which was about receiving this presentation later or I guess seeing the recording. So that is definitely possible. So if you do want to rewatch this session or see the presentation, it will be sent out to you via email in a couple of days through our monthly newsletter. So keep an eye out on that. Okay. I don't see any extra questions coming in the chat. I don't know, Dennis, if there's any final things you want to add or...
No, I don't really think so. It's just, yeah, like I said, that it's important for you to realize that, yeah, if you have questions or doubt, just reach out to us. Please do know that, to summarize, that during the summer months, processing documents, there's just a lot of documents and questions coming in. So we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Please also do note, and without wanting to sound strict or harsh, that entry requirements are in fact non-negotiable. So if you, for whatever reason, cannot meet any of your requirements, yeah, this might complicate things. So if that's going to happen to you, yeah, please contact us, because we prefer to think with you, to think along with you in an early stage, instead of yeah, that we still have to solve that at a later stage. So if you, for whatever reason, encounter issues with your entry requirements or with your conditions, yeah, I actually would advise you to contact us as soon as possible, so that we can see if there is a solution before you travel to the Netherlands, and not once you are already here. But of course, we hope that's not going to be necessary. And of course, we all hope to welcome you in September without any problems. And for most of you, that will probably work out just fine.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. I think
thank you too.
That made a lot of sense, and I think answered probably some, at least, of the questions that might be on students' minds at this point. That brings us then to the end of this session as well. Thank you for joining the session, whether it's live or watching it recorded. We will be having more sessions next month on orientation, on the orientation program, as well as student services at UU, and some other things. So keep an eye out for that. And if you do want to rewatch any of the sessions that we held in the previous months, such as on study culture or student life, housing, etc., you can find the recording of these sessions in a monthly newsletter sent to you. Thank you.